AJ.
And Shannon, and we are Don't Burn the Day. We are so excited today because we have a super special, amazing, rad guest. He is I can't tell you how excited I am to have him on the show. AJ and I actually connected with him through the sixth annual CP conference that happened this weekend. If you don't know, we were promoting it all for the last couple months, but it happened, and we met some really amazing people, and Jacob was one of them. So, AJ, do you want to formally introduce Jacob?
Mr. Jacob Pacheco, welcome to the show.
Hey, bud.
Welcome. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it being on here. Don't Burn the Day podcast. Let's get
You're
it
welcome.
rolling.
Of course, Mr. Prone to Ride himself. Now,
For sure.
now before we really get started into the CP conference and kind of like going back and forth on our thoughts about the CP conference and everything, why don't you tell the people a little bit about your story, maybe the cliff notes about who you are and how you came to be who you are, and the great motivational speaker badass that you are yourself.
Yeah, so my name is Jacob Pacheco. I was born and raised in Northern California, and I've been a Cali kid my whole life.
Yes.
I was raised in Northern California, moved to Central California for my undergrad in history. And then
wow.
in 2014,
I would have never expected that.
Yeah, it's a different style. That was more of like familial expectations, and we can get into that in a little while. But I got that degree, and then I made the decision to pursue my graduate degree, my master's in Southern California, because I wanted to be close to the beach, and who doesn't?
Yeah.
There are some people that are mountain people, but I'm definitely a beach person.
I think we have bonded over that, right?
Yeah,
I'm a Florida girl. I'm a Florida girl, but I've told you in emails I'm a Cali girl at heart because I love the beach and I hope one day to get back there and surf my heart out too. So yeah, I can definitely understand that.
Yeah, for sure. So I've been in Southern California since 2014, and that's when I really got into surfing. At the time of my graduation for my master's, I had to make a really big life decision that resulted in me starting my own content platform, my own product line, merchandise line, and then I started selling speaking services. And I've kind of grown my small business for the last 5 years, doing either content collaborations, travel, international contests for surfing, public speaking events, or appearances or hosting events. So it's been a really amazing wild ride, but it definitely started from nothing and just a few friends, including myself, with an idea, a small camera, and a garage. And that's really how all of this started. So it's been a wild ride.
Well, that's what I think, it's really cool to have you on because, you talk about starting your business and selling merch and doing the podcast and being a motivational speaker. And at one point or another, AJ and I have both done all of that. But now we're just, Don't Burn the Day is only about 2 years old, and we're kind of moving in that direction. So I wanted to have you on to kind of talk about the entrepreneurial side of all of it and see how you feel about that and what it means as a content creator for you with a disability. And was it different for you? Was it difficult?
Yeah, there's a couple of things to unpack in that question. What is it like to be an entrepreneur? Let me just start with a large picture view first and foremost. 20,000 foot view, as we call it. The entrepreneurial spirit is the ability to just continue forward despite setbacks, which is something that we all can relate to on this podcast. It's constant work every single day. At some point, at some point or another, you're always doing something, even when you're supposed to be relaxing, quote unquote. But it's if you enjoy it, I mean, you truly enjoy it in your heart, or you're constantly thinking about it, and you end up finding different pathways to kind of streamline and make it easier. The Washington Post posted something recently that really caught my eye, and they called it decision-making fatigue. And they talk about how we're always making these decisions every single day. And by the end of the day, we're just tired and it becomes hard
Yeah.
for us to do simple things in life. For
Yes.
example, making a decision about what to eat. That is decision-making fatigue that we're all experiencing right now. It's kind of like a epidemic in a way.
Right.
And so some of the things that they talk about is automating your process, automating certain things to make your decision making much faster and easier on yourself. So you're not really having any downtime. Well, the same thing applies to running a small business or being an entrepreneur or understanding what you want to do as a business. Like you have to automate things as you go. Like I'll be the first one to tell you that it's taken me a long time to learn how to automate. But the moment I started providing myself with the resources to automate
Yeah.
and to expedite process, not only in my professional but also my personal life. That
Yeah.
means like staying a little bit more organized, understanding what my target audience is, what are their pain points, what am I trying to actually give to people, what value can I give.
Yeah.
That is when you start to scale. That's when you start to get opportunities. And it's something that I talked about in the conference that we were all there. Not every opportunity is meant for you. And sometimes that's hard to swallow. That's a tough pill to swallow. But I think we all here can understand that. I mean, I'm sure you guys know that some opportunities just don't work out.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, in the pre-show, I feel like, you know, AJ and I came together and we've kind of designed Don't Burn the Day because we want to spread the message of it's possible for you to do whatever you think you want to do, having a disability. And so after meeting you and hearing your story and your message over the conference, I was like, AJ, we have to have him. I'm gonna go right for him, and like immediately, and you can attest to this, immediately right after your session, I was like, Jacob, we have to have, like, it's cool, because I wanted people to see what's possible. And you have done a great job and you have an amazing story, and surfing is just a plus to all of that, I'm sure. And I'm really proud of being able to know you now and connect with you, and I'm proud of what you've been able to achieve.
Well, the feeling's mutual for all of us in this room. You know, I'm very privileged and honored to be here. So thank you for giving me your time and having me on your platform. But yeah, I think, you know, we all have to take our first steps to get to where we want to be. It's not a given that we're going to get to where we want to be. But if you keep training and if you keep trying to get better at what you really want, eventually it's going to work in some form or fashion. Maybe it's not exactly what you want, but it's pretty close. You know, I had an idea of what it looked like in my head, and reality gave me something similar, but not exact. But I'm still happy with it because I get to do this for work, and people are like, do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. That's bullshit. That's bullshit, though. I think that you will work. You will work. You will just work more passionately about it, and it'll come through what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. That's you kind of touched on a topic there for me. You know, years ago, I won a little pageant called Miss Wheelchair Florida, and then I went to nationals and won. Not won there, but I placed there, and so.
Congratulations! That's amazing.
Yeah, well, yeah, but see, I'm not really a pageant girl. I wasn't. It took a lot of arm twisting to get me there. Anyway, so I had to, you know, I knew I wanted to be a public speaker, and I'm gonna be real here. I thought that by winning, you know, by winning the pageant and going on to nationals and getting that type of thing, that I was like, oh, I can go out and I can tell my story and I can change lives and it's gonna be great. But by the end of the year, after I was finished with all that, what I realized is that I was changed more than anything else. That I really realized what I wanted to do, and that was become a better advocate to allow people to know that it's possible, that you can do whatever you want. And so I loved public speaking, and I still do. It's a passion of mine. But it's changed. The course of it changed. I never I immediately went into the pageant thinking, oh, I'm gonna change all these lives and people are gonna be different because of my story. But no, the bottom line was it was me that was changed.
So at the end of the day, you were going into it for yourself.
Yeah.
But
But I was like 25, 26 years. I didn't even really want to do it. I was like, what in the hell? A pageant? I am not a pageant girl.
yeah,
I wear jeans. I surf. I am not doing this.
yeah,
Okay? And I went into it, I guess, with a different mindset, and then I came out of it with, because there were so many experiences over the course of that time that changed me.
yeah.
You know, and
But you went for it, and here you are now.
yeah, I am, and we're Don't Burn the Day is moving along, and we're happy and we're proud to be that source of representation, like AJ said earlier in the pre-show, representation for people with disabilities. So that's what it is.
Yeah, and something else that's really cool too that I kind of picked up on with your pageant story, it was like there's a story about Arnold Palmer, who's like one of the greatest golfers of all time. And he was going through a transition of his life where people were trying to figure out what was next for him and his phase and his story and things of that nature, right?
Right.
Well, he met with the team that was helping him out, and they realized that winning championships, winning medals, and all this other stuff is great, but it's short lived.
Right.
In fact, what people resonate more with, what they connect with on a basic level, is the idea of success.
Exactly.
The idea of doing better for yourself, taking it one step at a time, one day at a time. And so when they transition from him being Arnold Palmer, the championship golfer, to Arnold Palmer, the successful human, all of a sudden it elevated his brand, his story.
Right.
And now you have the Arnold Palmer tea, you have the Arnold Palmer brand. It's crazy. It's like those little subtle shifts
Yeah.
that create that scale. And you talk about how you wanted to be a queen, a pageant queen, and a nationals finalist, and you were going to get to speak everywhere. But it ended up turning out a little differently for you, but you're happy with it.
I am so happy.
Yeah.
And I think, I think it's because I got a chance to, I was traveling around my state and traveling around other states, and there were specific times during my reign that I had to go into specific situations where I actually learned from those people. And one of those was I was able to kind of go into a woman's shelter and speak and actually hear their stories. And I mean, honestly, I left out of there in tears, because when you think about it, any one of us could be in a shelter who have a disability, who are a woman, and some of these women's stories are just, it was just heart wrenching.
Yep.
And sadly, I've gone through some of it myself. And I definitely kind of resonated with some of their stories, and I thought, that's it. It just changed me, and it made me start to think. And just like you said, the shift happened, and I was like, okay, well, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to stand for. So
Right. Yeah, and I think one word to sum that all up is perspective. Perspective is an
you're absolutely
incredible, powerful tool that we all use to kind of restructure our minds and stay grounded and present.
Yep.
Something that I talked about in the conference, which was super important for me, is perspective. And
I want you to kind of elaborate and expound on what you talked about in the conference for those that weren't there. I can tell you, I mean, even as me sitting in my kitchen, I got a lot out of what you said, and I resonated with a lot, and I was like, we just knew, AJ and I knew that we had to have you on. So I want you to kind of elaborate on your story and tell people what makes Jacob Jacob.
Yeah, that's a great question. What makes Jacob or me who I
Yeah.
am. And I think the very question, the answer to that question is consistency for me. I want to be the person that I see myself as in my head, and I want to put that out into the world. And that also means having internal conversations about what I'm doing and how I'm reacting to certain things. And I used perspective as a tool to make sure that I don't fall into the comparison culture trap that I talked about in the speech.
Yep.
So something that is plaguing our society is comparison culture. What that means is we're constantly looking at where we should be versus our own situations, and then we nitpick at it like a scab. And what ends up happening is if we pick at the scab or we pick at the cut enough, it becomes infected, and then it ingrains itself into our lifestyles and our thoughts and our minds. And then it's a never ending rabbit hole pit that is really difficult to get out of.
Yeah.
I'm speaking in very graphic terms because I was there.
Yeah.
I've been there.
I think
And
at
it's
all,
very difficult, you know?
I think at some point or another, all three of us have been there in that moment, whatever that moment was for all three of us. We've all been there, and that's what was like, oh my God, he really like gets it. Like some people you talk to, and they have disabilities, and they're speakers, and like they'll tell all the fluff of their story. They'll tell the funny parts and the good parts, but you were able to actually get in and be really in the nitty gritty about it all. And I was like, yes,
Yeah.
what I
And
wanted to do.
the thing about that is that's not a term that's just related to just disabilities.
Right,
That's
that's
something
for
that everybody that's something that everybody relates to in some form or fashion. And that's something that I really wanted to focus on for my talk was this can't be just disability related. This has to be transferable to someone who has a disability and someone who doesn't,
Right,
because the message is just as powerful.
for both.
So
Yeah.
yeah, and perspective is something that everybody can relate to. You know, I am surrounded, my network is full of people who I view as successful, quote unquote, meaning that they're healthy mentally, they're financially stable, they're also emotionally relevant, they can communicate their thoughts, and they teach me how to communicate my thoughts, even when I'm not comfortable with it. And I learn a lot from that.
Right.
And I always focus on what can I do to get better. So I talked about this in the talk where I said the only person that you need to be comparing yourself or that you should be comparing yourself to is yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But I do compare a lot, and I always have to catch myself before I slide down into the pit. And I know when I'm doing it because I've built up that awareness.
Yes.
And there's also another factor that I unfortunately didn't cover in the talk, and I should have, but there was a lot that happened during that time period. We'll get into that in a little bit, but breath control.
Go on with it. If you feel like you got to just bring it. We're here for it.
No, breath control is extremely important. Breath control is extremely important because it allows you to kind of stay grounded and pull yourself back. So I'll give you an example right now. When I walk, I'm like a dog on a leash that's pulling its owner along the sidewalk, and the owner's like tripping over themselves to try and keep up, right? But I don't know any other speed. My speed has only been one speed in life, and that's 100%. Yeah, and that is not always healthy because it leads to a lot of high stress. It leads to a lot of anxiety sometimes, and I've had to learn and teach myself through different techniques how to actually breathe. And people are like, well, yeah, you just breathe in your nose and breathe out your mouth. How hard is that, Jacob? It's harder than you think, man. Okay, like it's harder than you think. It requires consistent practice. I'll provide another example. When I first tried this, I was walking along the beach because number one, I walk on sand so that in case I fall, it doesn't hurt. Right. Number two, it's an additional workout, requires more balance, more focus, and it ends up making my legs a little bit stronger, more dynamic.
Right.
And third, I just like the feeling of the water, like being close to the water gives me a meditative state.
Yeah.
But walking along that beach, I practiced. So there was a couple of different techniques that I did. I do the box technique, which is you breathe in for 4 seconds, you hold your breath for 4 seconds, you breathe out for 4 seconds, you hold for 4 seconds. Sounds pretty easy. So they call it the box, and it's supposed to regulate your lung capacity. It's supposed to regulate how you're breathing. And
Right.
it's you have to focus on the count, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2,
Are you doing
3,
it, AJ? I see you over
4.
there trying it.
Right. And it's
Yeah.
like you don't speed up the time. You have to actually focus on the actual rhythm of time. So when you look at an actual clock and you're counting 1, 2, 3, 4, that's not accurate. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And so when you're actually doing that and then you're walking at the same time, your mind is trying to focus on a bunch of different things, especially if you have a disability.
Yes.
And eventually you do kind of get into a rhythm though, where you work through it. But the first time I did it, I was all over the place.
Yeah.
I was all over the place. But I know that the more I do it, the better I get. Now I can feel when I'm becoming that dog on the leash that's pulling its owner. I know when to shift my shoulders back and to just shift from fifth down to third.
I have
Because that
so much.
shift is great.
I have so much I can say on what you just said about having a disability and, you know, functioning in life, period. Because I am just a, you know, anybody I meet is my friend. Like, I am like all this, you know, and I'm all go 100% of the time. And I'm just, I want to do it all. I still at 40 years old, I want to do it all. I'm not
Don't
done.
we all? Don't we all?
I'm not done. And like, I want to be the best mom and the best wife and the best podcast host and all of that. I want to do it all. But there are times when I have to be like, okay, whoa, back up. I'm getting, you know, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself.
I have to tell her, whoa. You can't do it all. You gotta delegate.
Yeah.
So,
Delegation is
so,
key, right?
yeah.
But
I
I
love
think,
that, AJ. I love that. That's actually that's a really good shout. Except for the massive truck that came ripping by my house.
it's okay. You're
Sorry.
good. You're good.
Sorry about that. But
No,
going back, AJ, what you said about delegation, I think that's a really good shout. And that's what I was talking about earlier with automation. It's a form of delegation where I don't have to think about it. Like there was like a quote on the Washington Post that I mentioned. They talked about make a list of what you buy at the grocery store every single time you go there.
Mhm.
And that cuts off 3/4 of what you need to buy and think of needing to buy. And I was like, well, shit, that seems so simple. And I didn't do it, you know? And I noticed that when I go back and look at my grocery list, I do have my consistency, the things that I always buy. So I'm like, okay, it's not that bad. But that's like it's a really influential mind hack that you can take just a little bit off of your plate to make your life a little bit easier so you can do what you really want, which is something I really focused on in the talk, which is I'm very about that.
Right.
You got to do what you want. You have to find and feel what you want to do in life. Shannon, you know what I'm talking about. AJ, you know what I'm talking about. We're all creatives in space. We all create. We all like to do those things. And sometimes life does not allow us to do that. And so I want to give some tips to anybody who's listening right now about what they can do to maybe gain that control, a little bit of that control back into their lives.
Well, please,
Number
we're
one,
here for it. Go ahead.
yeah, number one is save your money. Instead of trying to figure out how much money you can spend, figure out how much money you can save, because that's going to bring back into your life your time. Because the reality is the ability to do what we want, when we want, how we want, who we want, for as long as we want, which comes from The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel, it gives you a lot more freedom of your time. You enjoy it. So that's a book I would recommend anybody to buy. You can literally listen to it in a week, and it'll teach you so much more about finance and psychology and freedom than I think reading a generic finance book does. But it talks about, saving money instead of trying to get another job to spend even more money. So it's a very subtle shift, but it creates a lot of compounding, which I talked about in the speech.
Right.
But the second tip I would give is to focus on starting to do something that you really, really enjoy. So let's say you're stuck in a profession that you don't necessarily like, but you got to pay the bills somehow. We all have to eat. And I understand that. But you can always take a little bit of your time to focus on how to improve other facets of your life. I'm not asking you or telling you to spend hours and hours doing certain things. Like what you can do is if you have a 9 to 5 and you have to take care of all your responsibilities after that 9 to 5, do that. But if you can give 20 minutes to your passion after you've done all that, if you can find that 20-minute space of energy to start doing a bit of research, start writing things down. And I talked about this in the session.
Mm-hmm.
So if you do 20 minutes today, you do 20 minutes tomorrow, you do 20 minutes the third, 20 minutes the fourth, 20 minutes the fifth day, the sixth day, and the seventh day, that already adds up to 140 minutes worth of work over a 7-day period.
True. So
It's
true.
compounding. It compounds on itself. And you build off of the work you've done after every single day. And then you start to get better at delegation, right, AJ?
Yes.
You start to get better at understanding what you want, right, Shannon?
Right, absolutely. Now talk about, and you've given tips and you've talked a little bit about the successes, but talk about the roadblocks that were there before, as you started your business. Talk about the roadblocks that you encountered. And as a man, if you want to, let's be as real as saying as a man with CP and people thinking about your business, because we have encountered that,
Yeah, there are some definite challenges for sure. I think the number one biggest roadblock that I started with, the number one, was I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I wanted to help people.
Right.
But it helps to really write things down and to formulate your plan. But I also know for myself, once I'm committed, I go full bore. Even if I don't know exactly what I'm doing, if I'm passionate about the project or passionate about the direction, I'm all in.
I'm putting my
I'll figure
hand
it
up.
out as I go. I'll figure it out as I go, and that's exactly what happened here. But if I can save somebody some time, which is our most valuable asset.
Right.
Time is our most valuable asset. Let me even say this clearly. You're not going to get your time back.
Mm-hmm.
So anytime I come on a podcast, anytime I talk to people in an event or venue like the CP conference, it matters to me to make sure that you get something from it.
Absolutely.
Even if it's just one person, it's enough for me. Because you came, you showed up, and it's like, I need to make sure that this is worth it.
What do we say all the time? If one person hears our message over the podcast or hears our message over the YouTube video, then we've done it. We've done our job for the day. It's very clear to me that I'm only one woman, but I try to, and I'll be very transparent. I often overextend myself sometimes because I love many different.
Oh yeah.
AJ laughs because he knows.
Oh yes.
I don't want to do that anymore, and I'm learning to kind of value what I do and then value my family time, and I'm learning to say no, and I'm learning to say I would really love to do that, but this is more important. My family time is more important to me, you know. And it's
And
hard.
that's critical. That's critical because you know where your goalposts are. Your goalposts aren't moving, and that gives you that direction, that passion, and it gives you that sense of strength. Am I right?
Exactly.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, we, like I said, AJ started Don't Burn the Day 2 years ago, and if you could have asked me 2 years ago if I would be hosting a podcast with one of my best friends, and building a brand and building a business, I would tell you no. But also, I am on the other side of it. I'm a blogger, so I'm building another business outside of this for myself. But I have to kind of delegate. Okay, I can do this, and because today I have to do this. So hearing your message really kind of resonated with me, and I was like, okay, so I have to value my time a little bit more.
Yeah,
He's absolutely right, guys. And if you're listening and you only get one part of the message, I hope you get this message because he's so truthfully and so honest about what he says, and it all works together. And it's just amazing. So I'm really happy that you're here with us and you're spreading your message. So keep doing it because we want to hear it.
thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. So, the first biggest roadblock was I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. I just needed direction. So if I can save anybody some time, just spend a little bit of your time every single day writing stuff down, getting your plan put together. And then the second part is expect at least half of your decisions to not work out because decision making is an imperfect practice.
But that's sad, Jacob. That's really sad when you think
No,
about
it's
it.
not. No, it's not because decision making is not a perfect science. It's not. We can only focus on being reasonable over rational. Like we have to make reasonable decisions. And
Okay,
not every decision we make is going to pan out. It's
I get
just not.
that. I get that, and I understand that. But when
Yeah.
you said that, over half of our decisions that we make aren't gonna pan out. That's if someone's listening, they're like sometimes they could be like, oh
And,
man. But I totally get what you're saying. I
and
absolutely get it. Go ahead, Abe.
it's what you learn from those mistakes or those opportunities that don't pan out.
That's right.
Walt Disney created over, I believe he created over 100. It was an insane amount of animated films and movies, and he bankrupted 2 or 3 different studios before
Yes.
the one that we know in Burbank hit. So prior to Snow White, I believe he had 140 different animated films and
Yes.
cartoons. 140. Bankrupted 2 studios, and then finally got one that hit. And that's what I'm trying to tell you. Like you say that it's disappointing that only less than half of your decisions work out. But the reality is, you only need one. You
Oh, yeah.
only need one. So don't take too much of that to heart because it's an imperfect process. I thought I would be doing something different than what I'm doing today. I was going to be a professional head coach in sports, working with athletes, and the universe was like, you can do some of that, but we're going to make you into the athlete, and you're also going to get to speak. And I'm like, cool, I'll do that. I like that more because I always wanted to be the athlete, but I was excluded, and we all know what that feels like on this podcast. But I made it happen, period. But the universe may have a different plan for you, and you have to be willing to accept it and embrace it as a whole. And if it's not working out for you, then like take a step back and re-examine because your consistency is going to create what you want in life.
I'm
And
not
I think
saying
I
that.
made you guys write it down.
I'm not saying that I don't because I love the life I live now. I love who I am, and I love I love the podcast, and I love all the things that I'm doing, and I love my family.
Yes.
But ultimately, when you think about it at face value, and this is maybe what I was trying to say, when you hear that come out of your mouth, it's kind of like, oh damn, like half of my decisions aren't gonna work out, but like, but ultimately, once you get to the place you want to be, and you really kind of learn who you are, and what you want out of life, and stop, and we talked about this before, stop living for other people, then you can really find your happiness. And I think that's kind of what you're getting at too, is
and stop trying to keep up with the Joneses.
yeah. Oh, AJ, dropping the mic with some truth bombs there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, keeping up with the Joneses is a very real thing. It's
But
pointless.
I mean, all of us can say we've done it at one point or another, and I know you've talked about it. But it's still really hard to be, I think all of us here can relate. It's still really hard to be that one person, because I have people all the time asking me like questions about CP, and I found myself recently going, I don't always want to be the advocate. I just want to be Shannon. I just want to be Shannon. I mean, I just want to be
Yeah.
I just want to be my kid's mom or my husband's wife. Like,
Mhm.
I don't want to have to answer all the questions, but do I do it? Yes, because I feel like it's my job as an advocate and a person, and just me to, if you ask a question, I'm going to be upfront with you, and and it's a time for me to educate, because maybe the people that are asking the questions just don't know,
That's true.
So as much as I don't always want to be the advocate and answer all the typical questions, we got to. So
There's boundaries. That's where boundaries come into play. You have to know where yours are at. And if there's a person away from what you do, like the podcast and the content, and then there's the private person that you are, right?
yes,
And yeah, I try to be congruent with both, but there's days where I'm like, not really feeling it, Bob. Like not really feeling it.
that's the question I was gonna ask next. Is like, is there ever a time, and that's what it was kind of leading to. Is there ever a time or a moment where you're like, everybody knows who Jacob is. Everybody's seen you speak, or if you've had the pleasure to see him speak, you should go see him speak if you haven't, because he's amazing. But is there ever time once you're done with that you just want to be Jacob, that you don't want to speak, that you just want to surf and have fun and be that Jacob, and not this on point in the limelight Jacob all the time?
Yeah, no, that's I create time in my schedule for it specifically. I do not. I cannot be on 24/7, 365, because that will lead to a shorter lifespan and less time that I have to spend
Exactly.
doing what I want to do. So I make sure that I go and decompress, and I am who I want to be on the water, and that allows me, that allows any of us to be our best selves when we need to get back into the spotlight.
Right.
Like the water surfing for me brings a whole side of confidence within myself that isn't replicated anywhere else. So, for example, right after the conference, I unpacked all my stuff. I packed it all up. I put my surfing gear in my bag, and I went out and I surfed. Even though I was exhausted from the conference, I went right out and I surfed for about 2 hours.
Jealous.
Just celebrating,
Jealous.
and but also getting some training in. It was like double-edged sword, and I surfed very well. Surfed really, really well.
Jealous
And
AF. Can I just say I'm jealous AF?
Yes.
I haven't surfed in so long, and I am jonesing to get back on a board, because oh my goodness, what it does for me when I could go sit on the beach, and I love the beach, and I love the water, but when you get out there on a surfboard and you are able to, it just is so freeing for me.
it is.
It
There's
really
a
is.
rush. It's a rush.
It takes me away from the chair, and it allows me just to be, like we're talking about, it allows me just to be Shannon. And like everybody says, when I surf, like they're like, you have the biggest smile on your face. I'm like, yes, because that's the stoke, that it brings me. And I'm like, I can never describe to people what it feels like for me to be that free.
It's exhilarating. It's exhilarating.
I haven't surfed 70 years.
Yeah, we got to get you back on the board.
That's too
buddy.
long, man.
Yeah.
That's too
Yeah, we
long.
got to get you back on the board.
Yeah.
But it's such an exhilarating feeling, and it kind of takes CP sucks. We all know this. Okay.
Yeah.
Does it though? Does it? I think it's pretty rad. I mean, there's good and bad days, but I wouldn't change it for anything.
That's no, I wouldn't. No, but I wasn't trying to say that. But I was trying to say I wouldn't change it because it has made me the person that I am, and it made me think the way I do, and it's made me the woman that I am. But I do have days that suck. Okay,
That's true.
They're not the greatest. I mean, but when I get to surf and when I get to, like, two of my favorite things in the world are just surfing and being with my daughters and just being their mom. Because they don't know any different, because ever since the beginning of their life, they've had me as a mom. So they don't know any different. So they've adapted their life, and and it's just been me for so long that.
And what was that like? What was it like being a mom with two kids and with CP? What was that like for you? I mean, how was the journey for you?
In the beginning, okay. Well, I'm gonna be real. We're gonna be transparent. When in the beginning, in my first marriage, it sucked because there was physical abuse. And no, it's good. It's okay. It's part of what I talk about. But so being a mom with a disability, wow. I was so excited because it's something that I had wanted. Maybe not at 23 when I got pregnant the first time, but it's something that I'd wanted, and so I was super excited. But then when they came home, and there's no rule book, there's truly no rule book.
Nope.
To kids and newborns, and so I was like, holy shit, what am I gonna do? And what happened was, you just adapt, and kids are so resilient. My oldest daughter, who's almost 16 now, there were some things that I would have trouble doing. I can't pick her up with both hands. I couldn't pick her up with both hands at first because I have we all have that hand, right? That doesn't necessarily work as well. So I was like, well, what am I gonna do? So what happened was, she would step up, using her toys or pillows. She learned to step up, like, on her crib, so that I could reach down and pick her up and put
that is cool. That's cool.
And put her in my lap and strap her in with a seatbelt, and she loved it. She loved riding around in the chair and in the seatbelt, and then
I'm sure it felt like a rocket ship for her. That's awesome.
At 2 years old, she was. Yeah. And then when we had to change diapers, that was kind of a difficult thing. So we learned to adapt. She would lift her bottom up and let me kind of slide the diaper underneath, and we made it. It was kind of like we were growing up together, and it was such an awesome experience, and I wouldn't change it for the world.
That's awesome. That's beautiful.
It's not one thing. It's just the adaptation that happened over time was really amazing. And then came my second daughter, who was completely different, and they both are completely different, but we all learned to adapt, and it was fantastic. And I had support of my family, and so that was great. But being a mom for the first time with CP was a little bit daunting, but we made it, and now we're at 14 and 16, and we are freaking out. We're freaking out because one is driving now almost, and I am like, I'm so like freaking out that she's got her license almost.
I would be like, you're my chaperone now.
Yes,
you wanted your license. This is what you get with that.
Well, she loves her mama, so she understands that. But still, I am terrified. I'm terrified that my daughter is going to be on the road. So, because she's my daughter, first of all, and I don't drive, and I know I am all go all the time, and so is she. So it's a little.
It's her uncle I'm freaking out.
Yeah, AJ says he's freaking out all the time too because
Yeah, I heard that. I heard that.
she they're both a mess, and I wouldn't, I wouldn't trade it for the world, because more than anything they've taught me the best lessons in life.
Yeah.
Awesome.
You know what?
Love it.
And the things that I was scared of, they made me go, you know what? Hell no, I'm gonna do this. Hell no, we can do it. And anytime anybody told me no, I'm like, watch this. And guess what? We're here. And it's gonna make me a little bit emotional, but being their mom is
Yeah.
the best experience of my life, because
That's beautiful.
they taught me and continue to teach me so much, and we teach each other things,
Yeah.
and they have grown into the most empathetic, kind, beautiful human beings that I could have ever asked for. And so, boys, watch out, because we're not dating yet.
No.
I got you.
I'm very I'm very proud of the mom that I have been. I'm very proud of my journey. I'm very proud of who they are now, because it could have been a lot different. And wow, it's really weird because I've never been asked that question on the podcast of what it's like for me to be their mom. But yeah, it's definitely been an experience, but it's been the best experience. And it's been a struggle. It's been the best experience and the worst experience, because there's been some tears, some struggles, but we made it. And we're
Congratulations, and that's beautiful.
here. Yeah, well, thank you for asking, because I never had to confront it like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been great.
We've never had that question.
Yeah, but it's been great. And they are beautiful 14 and 16-year-olds now, and they just think they know everything, and mom
Yeah.
no fart, so that's fine.
Yep.
But they totally make me proud every day. Every day. So
beautiful,
Taylor,
amazing.
And Macy, if you're listening, I love you, and yeah, you're amazing. They're doing extracurricular stuff, so they're not home yet, but I know that they will watch it back, so they'll be proud to hear that they got talked about, because they love that stuff.
Yeah.
They'll be like, we're famous.
Yeah, they already think they're famous anyway, so I mean, but I'm their mom, so
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I might have instilled that just a little bit in their heads, maybe. But yeah, thanks for asking. That's a new experience for me. Thanks for asking.
Well, of course, I would love to know more, because I have friends who are also parents with disabilities, and I want to hear a little bit of their perspectives. And I know it's something that's very interesting in this day and age currently. And I wanted to know, because you're part of the CP crew, and I wanted to know.
It's quite an experience. I wouldn't trade it. I might have done things a little different, maybe in my life, to make things a little easier, the whole process. But as far as having them, no, would never trade anything.
Gotcha. Well, I'm glad that you answered so wholesomely, and it was great. It was great.
I mean, that's
your daughters are lucky. Your daughters are lucky.
Thank you. That's just my answer. It's definitely been, a hard road for all three of us involved, but it was a journey, and I mean, I could never ask for anything better. And my kids, they're gonna be amazing humans, and I'm very proud of that.
Well, it takes one to know one, so you're going to be.
Stop.
Yeah, you're an amazing mom, so that'll be an amazing kid. So there we go.
Stop it. Anyway,
I tell that all the time. So.
Yeah, I just, it's do what you got to do, make the sacrifices you got to make, and it's not, once you become a parent, it doesn't matter whether you have a disability or not. It's you're not living for yourself. You're all about your kids.
Yeah, that's what I heard from my brother-in-law. He said that once you have kids, you're no longer alive. It's about the kiddos.
Nope. You
Your
know,
life ends and theirs begins.
yes, absolutely. And there will be some hellish times, my brother. There will be
Oh, yes.
hellish times. And I am just now getting into the real hellish times because they're teenagers now.
You're like, what did you just say? What came out of your
Exactly.
mouth?
Yes, exactly.
Do you want to die?
I have two very close in age, young teenage daughters who are very sassy like their mama.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, it has become very hard. Yeah.
At least you know they'll be ready for the real world.
Oh, they are more than ready.
Yes.
They're built for it. I
That's
build
awesome.
because my mama built me. But it's just been it's been an amazing experience, but it's been a very long road.
Mhm.
And like I said, going back to some of that has to do with the choices that I made as a younger person. I wish sometimes that some of that was a little bit different, so it was easier on them. But you know, we made it, and we're here, and we have a great life. So yeah. Anyway, enough about me. The show wasn't supposed to be about me. It's about you and the CP conference. So let's talk about our experiences, and you too, Jacob. What you thought overall about the CP conference, and kind of give your thoughts.
The CP conference was really a great experience. Just to be in a venue with such amazing speakers and just to be considered in the same breath as those people, I was highly honored.
Yes.
And so I made sure that if I was going to be given the opportunity, I would not waste it. So I was prepared. I did the best I could.
Okay.
And it turned out to be a pretty once in a lifetime experience for me. Probably not going to be a once in a lifetime, but it was really an epic moment of both really high highs and also really low lows, and being able to work through it to create an experience that a lot of people resonated with. That's what I was most proud of from mine. I did catch a couple of my friends' workshops. I thought Ryan Ragu did a great job. Nathan Todd also had a really good workshop. He
Yeah.
provided a lot of value in his packets that he sent out to all of the people that attended the conference, and I know that that probably took a pretty penny for him. So I think people really need to appreciate that he took the time to make those copies, to print, and to send it out, because that's not cheap. But he cared enough about wanting to provide value that that's something that caught my eye. And then you have people like Chelsea Bear. You
I
have
love her.
yeah,
Yes.
she's an exceptional human being as well. And I mean, everybody's was just crazy great. And right as I'm talking, there seems to be a thunderstorm over my head, and now starting to pour rain. And it's just, man, what a great day!
I
Like,
think AJ has one of those rolling in over there too in Georgia.
yeah, I'm
Yes,
literally like, I
that's
started
true.
hearing the rain pattering. I'm like, no way, no way. I'm like, way cool rain. We need it in California. We're dying of thirst over here.
I think one of the things that I love the most about the CP conference, and this is the first one that we attended last year as a podcast, but we really didn't get delved into it, and we really weren't very, we had promoted for them, but we were kind of like, but we really got to dive in this year, and I'm so lucky that we did.
Yes.
Because we got to hear from you, and then we got to connect from you, and we got to connect with Nathan Todd, and I'm connecting with Chelsea Bear, and I found it really interesting that our our little CP community could connect, because there's so many people out there living with CP, and as you know, World CP Day is coming up, and on the 6th of October, and we were just
Woo, woo.
researching. We were just huh?
I said, woo woo.
Woo woo. Yeah, we were just researching. We were researching the number of people with CP, and it's 17 million
million.
people.
It's a big squad.
17 million people. But my question is, and my gripe is, why the hell don't we have, and I'm not like pushing away the spinal cord and, all of that community. I'm not pushing anybody away. Everybody's included. But why don't you see people with CP in the media more? Why don't you see
Yes.
people with CP having their own conferences like the CP conference? Why is it so hard to realize that we're people too?
That's a good question. I think it's a little bit of everything, right? It's hard to tell if you have a difference or a challenge if you're not having a medical device that shows that you have a difference or a challenge.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
something that I've dealt with personally myself, but you just find ways to promote value
Yeah,
in another way.
and I think that's what, and
Go
I'm
ahead.
proud to say that's what that's what I do myself. That's what AJ does, and I think that's what our podcast is meant to do. However, and I don't want to be the snobby woman that's like, oh, why isn't CP out there more? But I've noticed throughout my 40 years of life that it's very difficult because people want to automatically go to the I'm sorry, the feeling sorry for us kind of mentality, and that's not what I want.
Or it's
That
or
for
it's good to see you out.
Yeah,
Or
those things like things like it's good to see me out. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah, that's a tough one, and I've gotten it a few times myself.
And
I
then
try not to feed into it. What I do is I know people are well intentioned,
yeah,
but if you become derogatory,
yep.
that's where I kind of step up to the plate and I will have something to say in it.
And that's so much of what I was gonna get to, is because to be quite honest, my husband is able-bodied, right? So we, on more than one occasion, every time we go out, or especially this happened more when we were
You get
dating.
those relationship questions like, you
Yeah,
guys look so cute together.
Yeah, like-
Oh my goodness.
Yes, and like he, he being the person who'd never dated a disabled woman before, was like, okay, but he was he was open enough to go, okay, what am I going to deal with here? Like, what kind of things am I? So I told him, I'm like, well, be ready for the stares and be ready for the comments, because it's going to happen. Those are going to happen.
You
Because-
become the center of attention whether you want to be or not.
Right. So one night, and I have to tell you the story because it's so funny, and you kind of segued me into it, because I just laugh about it all the time. But we were out, obviously on St. Augustine Beach, because it's one of our favorite places to go, and I'm a girl who loves the beach. So of course, if you're trying to date the girl who loves the beach, you take her to the beach, right? So we were out, like, just strolling around this beach town, and this gentleman came up, and he said, "Oh," he said, "I'm so happy that you've got her out and you're doing all these things." He said,
Oh boy.
"You're an amazing man. You're an amazing man for taking care of her." And I'm like,
Excuse me?
you could
Excuse me?
you could immediately see the shift in my face. And he literally shook my husband, and at that time we were dating. And he literally shook my husband's hand and pulled him in and gave him a hug, and was like, "Oh, you're doing so great. Thank you so much for taking care of her." And I'm like, hold up. Like,
yeah.
let me tell you something. Because, when they said, it wasn't really a derogatory thing, but it made me feel uncomfortable.
Condescending.
Right. It was very condescending. And so I was like, hold up, we're equals, and I had to go into that conversation. And then we've had people ask about, well, how, and the kids, and, and first of all, my kids are from my first husband, and he's like, and we've had a lot of people ask him, how, like, wow, that's great that you stepped up. He's like, I love them. Like, I love all of them. Like, Shannon's just a woman to me. He truly, and I can tell you, as his wife, I know he truly does not see my disability. I am his wife, and I have to go, hold up, I'm tired. Like, sometimes I have to be like, you have to give me a minute. And he's like, sorry, babe, I honestly didn't I forgot. Like, I didn't realize. So for me, that's cool. Like,
That's beautiful. It's really beautiful.
And I know he loves me for me, and it's awesome. So, and he accepts my kids, and that's great. But we've definitely had those moments where we've had some weird questions, and we've had some awes, and even with our families in the beginning, it was like, well, how are you going to? He's like, well, because I love her, And then when he proposed to me, his family had questions for me, but now 7 years later, we're going strong, and I love his family to death. So.
Congratulations! It's a beautiful story.
It's marriage is hard whether you have a disability or not.
Yes.
But you just got to keep struggling along. Go ahead, H.
What was the TED Talk process?
Oh, I knew he was gonna ask that because he loves your TED Talk. Go ahead. Tell us about your TED Talk.
I appreciate that, AJ. The TED Talk process is very intense, I will say. You have to, first of all, you have to garner the leads. So you have to find out what conference is really focusing on the areas that you can provide value in.
Right.
Then you have to contact the people that are putting them together. You have to write the right email to get the right clicks to have them say yes. Mm-hmm. And at the time, I was still developing my speech process. I didn't doubt my public speaking ability, but I knew that I hadn't gotten my website or my materials that I provided at the conference. I hadn't had that set up yet. I was just starting into this field. But they said yes because I was starting into this process. But I still took my chances because I knew I could provide value, and they selected me, and it took a 9-month process because COVID also hit. And
wow, so you just did that, huh?
That was this year in February.
Wow, like
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So I was very fortunate. I got it in June of 2020. We were going to do it virtually, and I sent out my emails. They selected me in June. They had plans to do a talk in November or December of 2020, but as we all know, COVID is still around.
Yeah.
And that formulated to like a 1 to 2 month waiting period where we weren't sure what was going to happen. So we all went virtual. And I had to rewrite my speech about 10 different times. So I rewrote my speech about 10 times until you saw what you saw on YouTube. And from my friends who have done TEDx talks and who have worked with planning committees, they're like, that doesn't happen. People don't normally rewrite their speeches that many times.
Right.
And it's because I cared about what I was putting out there. So I rehearsed. It took me one full day, 1.5 days worth of filming to get the clips that I wanted to get and to provide something that I was really proud of. And when it actually was out, I started to cry because it was like a dream realized.
Yeah, it's an emotional experience, of course.
Right, it was, and that was what the process was like, because it really was about a 10-month, almost a 4 years worth of work paying off.
Okay, so I have to ask you the real question, and go like, when you knew you had the TED Talk, when you got the email that said like, okay, we're accepting you, were you scared shitless? Were you like, oh my God, what do I have to say? How can I, and like, what value, how am I going to make these people, or what kind of a difference can I make to these people? And I just want to know, like, what were those feelings, those initial feelings when you first got the email? Like, what was it?
I was elated.
Yeah.
I was very, very happy. I didn't hesitate though. I was more of like, let's provide the value that I know I can bring. So
Yeah.
Yes.
I have to work with speech writers, people that understand
That's
prose.
what I wanted to ask. Like, did you work
Yeah.
with anybody?
Yeah, I did. It was a team effort. It was a huge team effort. It wasn't just me. I actually worked with both the conference writers, and I also worked with my own friends who were exceptional writers and understood how to make words flow with my own speaking style. So they
Okay.
basically watched me speak online, and then they read my speech, and we formulated it over time.
Right.
Like I said, I had written it about 4 or 5 times before I put it in front of my writer friends, and then I wrote it again another 4 or 5 times before you actually saw the finished product on YouTube. So I
So
really
it's
took it exceptionally seriously. I did not hesitate. I went for it, and that's what came out, and I'm super proud of it.
You should be. It was amazing. I mean, I watched it
Thank you.
like twice the other day, and then again this morning to like refresh myself, and it was truly amazing. So go ahead, AJ, and I get a question.
it's about surrounding yourself with the people that can pull the best out of you.
There you go. Yes, sir.
Yeah, it wasn't just pulling the best out of me, but also challenging me on a lot of different fronts.
Yes.
Because you don't know everything. We can all think we're the bee's knees,
Yeah.
but the reality is we don't, and we don't know all. We don't know it all,
And
our friends can provide us with the information that we need.
And some of that is, I ask you the question because I'm doing some projects behind the scenes, and we'll talk about that off camera because I'm not ready to announce them yet. But so you worked with people to kind of help you get there, and it takes a village, right? It does take a village to kind of get you ready. And
I laugh sometimes at entrepreneurs that said I built my business all by myself.
No,
It's like, really, really, did you? Like, because I know that there's probably 1 or 2 people that gave you a helping hand. Maybe they gave you a meal to make sure that you had food in your belly when you didn't have any money in your bank account. Because that's another thing about entrepreneurship is if you don't manage your finances well, or if you don't take care of yourself, like things get pretty sketchy pretty quick.
Yep.
So it took
Oh yeah.
it took a few hard lessons for me to learn that as well. So, and I remembered that it does take a village. So remember the people that have given you their time to make sure that you get to where you want to be, because they didn't have to give you that time. That's time that they won't get back.
Yes.
So it's an investment. It's an investment into you. So how are you going to make sure that that return on investment, duplicates or exponentially grows?
Right.
So I remember every single teacher that gave me their time, that helped me out with their lunch, that put an arm around me. I remember all my coaches, all of the people that did that for me, and I made sure to pay it forward. I'm not a perfect person by any stretch of the imagination.
None of us are. None of us are.
Yeah. And like I said before, the comparison culture, like the person that you should be comparing yourself to is yourself. So that also means on a mental and emotional level, like there were mistakes that I made as a young man that I am not proud of, but I've learned to accept it and just embrace it like that's who I was. That's what I was doing then. But what I'm doing now is making sure that I am the person that I wanted to be then, but I wasn't ready for it. That's a really hard thing to accept. And that's something that I challenged people at the CP conference to do. I asked really hard questions.
You did.
And right when I was in the mode and I was in the groove, I fell.
But you know
And
what?
that was
I
hard.
I love, you know what? I love that because it shows that you're human and it shows that anything can happen. But you know what I also loved about it was that you were like in it. You got right back up and you did it.
You
You didn't
got back up.
falter, you know. And I was so happy, and I was like, yes, yes, he's my spirit animal because like for real, like you just got back up and you didn't miss a beat. And I just knew I was like, no, he's got this. Like he's got this.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it was my worst fear realized, but
You did
I
it.
had been yeah, I had been rehearsing it over and over in my head, visualizing like what would happen. And it happened, and the universe was like, what are you gonna do? And I had to just focus and get right back on the call. And I think it took me less than 2 minutes. It was very quick.
You did it so good. Like it was so good.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I have a little something to say about that. You know, you talked about the universe, and there comes times when, you know, when I'm having good days with CP and everything's on, and you're like, oh, you know, and you're speaking really well, and you're in front of the camera, and you're doing all the things, and your mom game is on, and your wife game is on, and it's all good, and then all of a sudden there's something happens and you go to the bathroom and you step wrong when you go to the bathroom and you fall and you're like, holy shit, okay, yeah, I'm still disabled, I'm not invincible. Oh
I
my
think
god.
what you're really trying to say is, ah.
Yes.
Right when you hit the floor, it's just
Yes.
damn it.
And sometimes fucking damn it come out really loud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tears, because I do my very best. I push through every day, and I think all of us do.
I'm sure as everybody here on the podcast can understand, Jacob doesn't have a filter. And I just say it how it really
No,
is.
I don't either. AJ, do I have a filter?
Hell no.
I'm trying to. I was trying to be sweet and nice and conservative, but I truly don't have a filter, honestly.
No, we don't.
And when things like that happen, you know, after being and I can go like weeks and have a great, you know, I can go 3 weeks and have great, you know, be on in front of the camera, be a great mom, be a great wife, all those things, and then it takes one time that I like trip in the bathroom and I'm like, fuck, like, oh man, here we
Well,
go.
that's the human side.
right.
That's the human side of things. Isn't that
Or-
right, AJ?
Or for me, it could be I'll be talking to a guest and my voice will drop out.
Yeah.
That happens.
And
We know it's like. We know what it's like. But we
Yeah.
have to learn to pick ourselves back up again and keep going.
And I think it's really, you know, and what I connect with you so much on is that you get like you truly get it, and you say like that happens, and a lot of times we as people with CP don't want it to happen because we're like you know, it has to be on and it has to be, you know.
It makes me feel weak.
Yes.
For context,
Yes.
it makes you feel weak and vulnerable.
Yes.
And human nature tells us to protect ourselves to survive.
Yeah.
So weakness is seen as a thing for people to prey on, or that's what gets you killed. You know, 'cause
Yes.
you're still in the jungle, you're in the wild. But the reality is changing. It's no longer about survival. It's actually people do want to connect. They want to feel that vulnerability. And my family was like, "You fell? You really fell? Where is this? I want to see it. I want to see it. I want to see it." You know, and but they resonated with, like, you guys ate it up. You ate up the vulnerability, and I was surprised, but I also wasn't at the same time. So I was like, "These are my people. They get it."
No,
you know,
absolutely, absolutely. And I think one of the things that are the most scary for me is that I live independently with my husband, and I've lived independently since I was 17 years old, pretty much, and done it on my own, and I had my first apartment, paid all my bills, did all the things, you know, and then had kids and you know lived independently and did all that, and So because I've been so independent, when I do fall, and like say that there's no one here because my husband gets up every morning, goes to work, I work, I work the podcast from home, and I'm a mom, and so they go off to school, and so I'm here during the day working. And what if I do fall? Well, then people I have to call my husband and go, you know what, I fell. And he's like, well, I'll be there in a little bit to help you. But I I get really nervous because I don't want people to think that just because I fell, I'm unable to do things, and we have neighbors that are alert, that know that I am in a chair, and know to listen out for me. But it's so embarrassing for me, Jacob. It really is. And I know you all have to have this story, and if you don't, I feel kind of singled out, but I'm gonna tell it anyway. I hate when people automatically assume just because I fall that they have to call an ambulance. It is.
I understand what that feels like. I had my head cut open once as a kid. So.
I start to when I always say, if I fall and I can call you, I'm okay, because if I can get to a phone, I'm good. Sometimes I'll have to call my husband and be like, it happened, I tripped or whatever. He's like, okay, I'll be home in a minute. Just pull down a pillow or do something. So I'm like, okay. So, but the first time that I ever experienced this with my in-laws was when I fell, and my husband was at work and couldn't come home, and I had to call my father-in-law, and he's like, well, I'm right down the road, but I'm gonna call an ambulance. And I'm like, no, 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 because I it's very embarrassing for me. It just really is.
Yeah.
I can't, it's people are like, we were just worried about you. I didn't know, and I'm like, it's okay, like I'm good. And then you have the ambulance come to the house, and you have 6 people come in the house and rush, make sure you're okay.
What you're talking about is the invasion of personal space and the
It's
invasion of privacy.
embarrassing. It's so embarrassing.
Yeah. So I understand what that feels like for sure. I've experienced some things similar. What I do is I completely embrace it. I'm just like, there was a time where I was on a date and I fell with a tray full of food, and ranch got all over the front side of my clothing, and I just owned it. I just owned it. I was like, I literally turned around to my date, pointed at my sweatshirt, and I was like, "What do you do?" And then I looked at the food counter, and I pointed at my sweatshirt, and I was like, "What do you do?" And
Yeah.
they were all like, "Can we get this dude some food?" And I'm like, "Sit down."
What about those moments? Like, I mean, and I totally get what you said about embracing, the funny moments, because I've had those too with the food and all of that. But like, it's still really hard for me at 40 years old I am really, really hard on myself. Like, if something, like, it doesn't happen very often, but when moments like that happen, to me, and I have to, or somebody that's around me feels like they have to call an ambulance, even though I'm going, no, no, I'm fine, just help me to my chair, I'm good. It's like the air just goes out of my balloon. I am so defeated and so deflated for so long.
So I understand that. I'm going to share one specific moment that happened to me recently. It was with my ex-girlfriend. We were going to the movies. She took me to the movies, and I was walking up the stairs, and I was going to our row, and the ledge that separates between the recliner chairs. So there's a little ledge and there's a little pathway. The ledge is usually a little bit higher. So I reach down with my left arm to try and like grab it with my fingertips, because as long as I have something to kind of like push against, sometimes I use that force to keep me balanced.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, my fingers tried to reach for it and it missed. And so that anticipation led me to fall backwards, and I fell backwards down the stairs, and my ex screamed, and that was really, really bad.
Yeah.
And it was scary for sure, because I don't like falling backwards on stairs. It's like the number one biggest no-no for my life is to
Right.
not fall backwards
Yeah.
anything, because that's how I got my head cut open. So that's like trauma that
Right.
you don't do that. Like you cat fall somehow. Like and
I think at one point in time we all have learned to fall.
yeah, we're masters of falling, right? And
Right.
I remember I was like, that hurt, but nothing's broken. My
Mhm.
neck's not broken.
That's it.
Nothing's broken. And the guy came running down the stairs. He was really scared for me, and all I said was, I lost my icy. Damn it! You know, he was freaking out. He was freaking out. But all I said was, I lost my icy. Damn it! And he like kind of like laughed, but he wasn't trying to laugh. He was trying to be serious. But when you crack a joke like that, it really brings down those walls. And I was like, "Oh, you ran down the stairs, man. That's really nice of you." He was like, yeah, man. He's like, you okay? Are you okay? I was like, I'm okay, man. I'm okay. And I hurt. Don't get me wrong. It hurt, but my pride was hurt too. But you know, the number one thing I'll go back to is perspective.
Yeah.
It's what we were given. It's what we were given and what we do with it, right?
You talk about making jokes, and I remember the specific moment that I was talking about happened a while back, and I've learned to make jokes too. And like all of a sudden, you know, we live in a small town, and you know, when ambulance comes down your road, everybody's out the door looking at.
Oh yeah.
You know, all
it's
that.
dramatic, yeah.
Right. So and we have, you know, paramedics and all of this, and so 6 like burly men come rushing through my house. My husband's at work. I'm like, damn, what'd I do to deserve this? So I told my husband, and when he got to me, and I was like, you know, you had some competition. He's like, no, I'm good. So like, you know, they
did the 6 firefighters, did they laugh?
Yeah, I mean, damn, like, yeah, it was like legit, like 6 different firefighters, and I knew 2 of them because we had grown up together, and they're like, oh, it's Shannon, no big deal. But seriously, like, I was like,
That's
what
good.
did I do to deserve this today? It's only Monday. What the hell?
It's owning it. Yeah. See, that's the attitude that I take as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think you just have to make those jokes, but I ask people those questions because not only does it give me perspective, but it also kind of helps people through those moments if you're having them, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway, we don't want to keep you forever as much as we love you. We do have a couple more questions for you, and one of the specific questions that we always ask on the show, and if I don't give it to AJ, ask the question, I will hear about it after the show. So AJ, take it away with our famous question.
What does diversity mean to you?
Oh, that's a question that y'all asked me in the conference. You asked me on the big stage in front of people live. Yeah,
and the way we mean that is, you know, a lot of times in the disability community, whatever disability you have, we use buzzwords like my brain.
Diversity and inclusion.
Diversity and inclusion. All of that. We use those words, but they can be misconstrued by people. So we want to know what it means to you specifically.
Good question. What diversity and inclusion means to me is really about equality and access. I believe everybody deserves a good voice at the table. You know, regardless of gender or race. It's something I wholeheartedly believe in. You know, my father was an immigrant from Peru, you know, didn't have a dollar to his name really, and built himself a business. And my mom comes from, you know, the salt of the earth people in Cleveland, Ohio. Came from blue collar background, and they all made their own ways in the world. My stepdad as well. We grew up on a farm, created one of the most successful businesses, small businesses in Northern California.
You mean you mean Jacob could have been a farmer? What?
Actually, yeah, my dad in Peru, our family owned lots of land in the mountains.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, we got it stolen from us by a bunch of terrorists in the 80s, though, so that didn't.
Oh, that's shitty.
Yeah, it's a really cool story that I found out about only a few years ago, and it blew my mind. But I believe diversity and inclusion means
Yeah.
that everybody has an equal say at the table. Everybody deserves an equal say at the table, and we can do that through our policies, through our need for conversation, our need for connection, and we have to be willing and able to hear what people have to say. We don't have to agree. We just have to hear them out.
Yes.
Right.
And we can still find a way to work together. And I believe that if we were able to really focus on communication and connection, I think it would solve a lot of issues in the world today. Not all of them, but a good portion of them, I think.
Yeah.
Yes.
What do you think about, and the pandemic has affected us all in different ways, but we, AJ and I often say that it has helped us because we were just, we had just come out of thinking about the podcast, and we've been doing it like podcast style, like actually doing a well, I was actually doing it over the phone because I was traveling and doing different things, and then we came to the, these times of Rona, and we have found that it's helped build our platform because people want to listen and see discussions like this. So how do you feel? It's kind of, whether it's up your brand or whether it's kind of brought you to an impasse. What do you feel about that?
To first and foremost, let me say that to anybody who's been affected by COVID, both professionally or personally,
Of course.
within the disability community or not in the disability community, like it's affected all of us on a lot of different
Absolutely.
levels. So, to anybody who has lost or is grieving, I'm sincerely sorry, and I send you the best vibes I possibly can.
Well, I say thank you because I even
Yeah.
though even though my grandfather had cancer and was going through treatments, he succumbed to COVID. He
Yeah.
so
Yeah, we lost. I lost friends. I lost friends and family due to it. So it affected me as well. But overall, the past 2 years have been some of the best of my life. I have overcome quite a bit. I have a heart broken, had to overcome that, but I was able to complete a couple of different life goals and also learn just exactly where I need to be, who I want to be, what makes me happy, and also like what I want to be doing long term.
right.
And so it's been very good to me. But there's also been with a lot of the good, there's also been lots of trials, as I said.
Yeah.
The breakup, that was really tough. I also, had to overcome a lot of my own personal trials and heal some things that needed to be healed. But what that gave me was the person that I really wanted to be, and I'm still working through it. It's a continuous process. But man, am I happy with what came out of it,
Absolutely.
and I'm grateful. I'm really grateful. Now I get to talk to people like you.
Well, thank you. We appreciate that. And we, like I said, I knew I wanted you on the show immediately once the message was over. I was like, I really resonate with this dude, and I talked to AJ about it. He's like, yeah, let's have him on because we always have great inspiring people on the show. If you watched any of it, But I mean, I really wanted somebody to come on that had CP, that was doing the thing and doing the damn thing pretty well, to be quite honest. And you give us all a good name. So thanks for agreeing to come on, and we hope you will be a part of the show again. We hope we can team up and do some collaboration.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, guys. And to anybody who is out there, don't burn the day.
Yeah,
Just keep going. Keep
we
going.
And one more thing before we wrap it up, we want you to tell people where they can find you, all about Jacob, and we're gonna have all of his links and everything, but we want people to know and for you to tell them where they can find you on social media and what's coming up for Jacob next. What's your
Ooh, these are good questions. So where you can find me is I have a website, www.pronetoride.com, Instagram, YouTube. I'm on the YouTubes, Jacob Pacheco. Find me on Instagram. We have Prone to Ride on there, where it's a platform for video and informational content on self-development. Also just sharing good vibes all the time. And I also share some very real stuff too.
Yeah.
And my content is definitely changing at the moment. I haven't posted as much recently, but that's because I've been working on a lot of projects, both public speaking wise, and also I'm getting into the NFT space. So I'm working on a huge project right now with a partner of mine that's going to be launching probably in November, December time, where we're going to be creating a community that's specific in the crypto space that is going to provide lots of perks. We're going to be giving back to charities. We're going to be finding ways to fund events for people to have charitable movements for their causes. We're also going to be giving travel perks. So people that want to come out and surf, like let's say we buy or we rent out Trustman's house in Southern California, which is super famous, and it's on one of the most famous breaks in the world in Trestles.
Oh,
That's some of our long-term vision. That's some of our long-term vision, but we need you, and we need people who are listening to this podcast to want to support.
yes.
And our idea, our story that we're putting behind it, it's really like, this is my baby. It's a big baby of mine where I've developed it from the ground up, and I just spewed out a story, and my partner and I have been working on it ever since.
Well, please let us help. Please let us help.
But that's the big project. So you guys are lucky because this is the first time we've actually talked about it publicly. So
I feel very
don't burn the day has just gotten the exclusive access.
Exclusive. Yes, people, listen. We're so excited to help. Please let us help in whatever way we can. We know we're small, but we are mighty and we want to help. Please let us help.
Sounds good. We'll be giving out more information soon, and just stay tuned for sure.
Keep in touch, and boy, I just gotta say, I want to surf with you. So I'm coming to surf with you. One day I'll be there.
We're doing it.
One day we're doing it.
See Thor, the lightning god, cruise with you. He's rumbling in my apartment right now.
Awesome.
I'm making it happen. We're gonna surf.
Sounds good.
And I've seen your board. Oh my goodness, it's awesome.
Yeah, are you talking about the one with the swirl? The green, blue. Yeah, that broke. It's snapped in half. So it's retired.
Oh.
Yeah, it snapped in half.
You have to get a new one?
I have plenty of others, but that was my baby for a very long time. Hundreds of days.
I've seen you surf with that one in multiple videos, and I was like, man, that's beautiful. I love it. But please talk about. Oh, and one more thing. Talk about Live to Ride a little bit.
Prone to Ride is my content platform that I built. So it started from there, and I've kept it ever since. So it's where I design my merch and my apparel. It's also what my business is under. So for public speaking and things of that nature, it's just my brand.
Yeah, but didn't you partner with Live to Ride for a little bit? Or I mean, isn't there some kind of connection there too?
I'm not sure if you're talking about.
Might be thinking of a different name. But anyway,
Yeah, I partnered with a lot of different brands like Zappos, Nike.
oh, we're not going to get into that side of it. That'll be on another show because I've got questions about that too. I could have sworn there was a partnership that you did a while back where you actually got to surf with somebody that was a winner of a contest, and they got merch and all those.
Oh yeah, you're talking about the giveaway, the very first giveaway that I did. Yeah, we gave them a brand new surfboard. We hooked them up with a bunch of merchandise, a couple of gear to help them get started with his surfing career or help them elevate.
Yeah.
And I'm actually going to be doing.
That's the kind of stuff this guy does, guys. So I mean.
Yeah, it was super empowering. But here's another kind of exclusive. So in honor of the NFT launch, I will also be doing a giveaway again with an old board of mine, with an old board that I never use anymore. So rather than recycle it, I'm like, I want to give it to somebody who can actually use it. So I will be giving another surfboard of mine that I haven't used in a while. I will also be giving out free merch as well in honor of the NFT launch. So it's going to be a really cool event, and it's something that we're building from the ground up. It's literally me and one other person that I'm working with. So this is a grassroots development, people that you want to get behind.
Yeah, we love that.
Yeah, and it's meant for a lot of good people. So the community is going to be amazing, and all I can say is stay tuned, and I can't wait for what comes next.
Yeah, please keep in touch and let us help in any way we can. We want to, if it's just to get your message out, if it's to come and partner, if it's to come and help give away things and be active, please let us know.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. We appreciate the support.
You're more than welcome. Well, AJ, I think that's the end of our time together, sir. And
with that, we say don't burn the day off.
Well, we should let Jacob say that because he is our guest. So Jacob, why don't you take us out with a don't burn the day?
All right, everybody. Thank you all so much for having me, and make sure that you don't burn the day.
Absolutely. Everybody